Royal Road is a platform for releasing serialized fiction that can launch an author's career. What are the steps you need to take to have success on it? How often should you post? How do you market your book? And how do you monetize your work? I'll take you through everything you need to know and share some advice from experts. Last video, I broke down some of the differences between Royal Road and other platforms like Wattpad. If you haven't seen it and are interested, please check it out. Royal Road is an amazing opportunity for fantasy and sci-fi authors to build an audience. In the past, authors like Hugh Howey with the Wool Silo series and Andy Weir with The Martian had to painstakingly build their own audience from scratch. And that took resources, like building your own website and fostering a community. Royal Road can do a lot of that for you and has the additional advantage of discoverability. If you use the site effectively, it will actively promote for you, which is enticing for someone like me because I'm not the best at marketing. How and when am I planning to use Royal Road? Plan A for me is seeking traditional publishing, so I'm still seeking a literary agent. But that process is a bit trying and uncertain. If that doesn't work out, I think Royal Road is my next step. It'll help raise my profile as an author and also allows for monetization. In my mind, it's the perfect step to take before self-publishing. What can we do to give ourselves the best chance when using Royal Road? There are countless amazing articles on the subject, but I'm going to focus more on how I would use the steps that they recommend. If you prefer the more detail-focused approach I've taken in prior videos, please let me know in the comments below. The article I'm going to mention the most is from Jean Champagne. He does a wonderful job of summarizing 3 other articles, making our life a lot easier. We've got a bit of article inception going on here. The sources John used are How to Become Successful on Royal Road for Beginners, and Running Your Story Like the Business It Is. The first thing you need to do is understand your audience. John's article focuses on lit RPG, but progression fantasy, the genre of my book, is also very popular on the site. Every genre has aspects that readers come to expect. You can have fun and play with some of those tropes, but you should not alienate your reader base. The next thing you'll need is a backlog, like I should have with this YouTube series, but I like living on the edge. The reason having a backlog is so important is because Royal Road is all about posting on a fixed schedule, typically Monday, Wednesday, Friday, all 5 weekdays, or some ambitious authors every day of the week. Once you set your release schedule, you want to stick to it, otherwise you could lose readers. Frantically writing to beat a deadline is not always the best way to guarantee quality. In my case, I have a completed book with around 40 chapters, so there's a lot of content I can release over time, but that shouldn't stop me from being prepared and writing more in advance. I could burn through that first book very quickly. First impressions can be everything, so you'll also need a good cover. In my case, I think it would be worth paying an artist for an amazing design. AI artwork is quite prevalent on Royal Road, but I don't think that sends the best message. Tied to the cover, you'll also want a great title. Hopefully The Witch's Weave is strong enough as a title. If not, I'll workshop it. John also mentions the importance of having the right tags. If you figure out some keyword descriptions of your story, you can draw readers to it. A well-written synopsis is also important. In this case, it would be more of a summary, what you would expect to see on the back of a book. This needs to hook readers and be well-crafted. I've gone through many drafts of my summary and synopsis. It's also super important that your opening pages shine. Keep those readers gripped. Leaning into cliffhangers is a way to foster eagerness for more. I use the multi-POV structure of my book to maximize dramatic moments. I think that might play well on Royal Road. John then gives some very specific advice, which I think is invaluable. Releasing a ton of words at the start, perhaps 20,000, before following your standard release schedule can be a good way to find early readers. Some readers want to see a chunk of the story available before they'll invest the time reading it. That makes perfect sense, especially since there's no guarantee that the author will continue to write. Give the reader something to believe in to earn their loyalty. Earlier, I touched on scheduling. In my case, I think Monday, Wednesday, Friday makes the most sense. 5 to 7 days a week seems too ambitious. It's easier to scale up later than to disappoint now. In another article, William Flatner gives some great advice on scheduling. A small bump in your views may be gained by publishing just a few minutes after the top of the hour. The reasoning is that, since most scheduled updates go at the start of the hour, this affords you more time to be on the latest updates list. I'm not sure that's something I would have thought of, so I appreciate that insight. Now that we have a release plan, how do we get the audience that we crave and deserve on Royal Road? This post by Siri and Larian gets into the nitty-gritty. There are 4 sources for followers, which will be your primary ones. Only 3 of these can give you the 2,000 follow count or above we are aiming for. They are Best Rated, Popular This Week, and Rising Stars. The exact metrics to get onto the Rising Stars list is unknown, but it seems to be a combination of word count, 10,000 to 20,000 words, engagement, views, positive reviews, and follower count, around 150. This relatively low barrier of entry is why Rising Stars is so effective. The volatility of maintaining a high ranking when you don't have a lot of followers is very difficult, which makes rising stars an organic way to bring attention to your work and generate support. William Flatner recommends that writers new to Royal Road use review swaps and shoutouts to get attention. You can arrange these on the forums. They're allowed by the rules. William then helpfully points out that you can pre-write these shoutouts for other authors, even in HTML code. If you have trouble becoming a rising star, all hope is not lost. By posting a lot of chapters, you can get onto the popular this week list. I don't seem to be as prolific a writer as many of these users, so I'd prefer not to go this route. A third method is to be highly rated. As I mentioned earlier, there are some problems with this approach, but sometimes the tortoise does win the race. No matter how you get there, securing around 2,000 followers on Royal Road opens up opportunity. The next step John recommends is evaluating your launch, and I think it's worth going through this verbatim. After 2 months, you'll have a sense of the trajectory your story's on. You can estimate the monetization by figuring that 3% of your followers would be willing to pay you an average of $8 a month. So 3,000 followers would make you $720 every month. 2,000 followers would be $480. At this point, if you don't have enough followers for it to be worth continuing, your best approach might be to end the story, start a new one, and try to get followers from your first story to be your initial readers for the new story. How do you tap into this monetization that John's talking about? Through Patreon. It's a third-party website that allows users to pledge money towards you. The heart of it is finding people who believe in you and want to support your work. You can incentivize them in tiers. If you give me $8 to $10 a month, you can read this many chapters in advance. If you give me $3 a month, you get slightly lesser access. Again, the key to this working is continuously writing. Your subscribers will be very unhappy if you suddenly stop releasing new chapters. Using Patreon in conjunction with Royal Road can be lucrative. There are quite a few authors making $10,000 or more a month. The next step you can take to monetize is once you have enough material to assemble into a book, you can release it on Kindle Unlimited. John then points out something very important. Kindle Unlimited doesn't allow content to be posted for free elsewhere, so you'll need to remove any chapters from Royal Road when you post the books to Kindle Unlimited. At this stage, you're mostly invested in your current readers, so the backlog on Royal Road becomes far less important. John then provides yet more genius insight. Create an audiobook. A genre publisher I know says that he sells 5% of his books as paperbacks, 15% as ebooks, and 80% as audiobooks. For me, this is a natural fit. I already have all the equipment I need, and in my professional career, I've already helped edit and record half a dozen audiobooks. In the past, I toyed with the idea of turning my novel into an audio play. That's another route I could take. In a final piece of advice, John recommends not falling for the siren call of vanity presses. In respect to lit RPG at least, physical copies don't sell well. That may not be as applicable for my book, but I think it's worth considering the overhead that physical copies would create. Some final concerns with Royal Road involve legality. Who owns the work, and what happens if someone steals it? We'll find some answers in the Royal Road Terms of Service. 4.2, Rights you grant Royal Road.
By posting your content, you grant Royal Road a non-exclusive, worldwide, sub-licensable, revocable license to use, display, promote, edit, reformat, reproduce, publish, distribute, store, and sub-license your content on the services.
The important context here is the services means their website. You retain the intellectual rights, but Royal Road can use your content to promote or advertise.
You also grant Royal Road an irrevocable license to store and copy your content for the purposes of backups and internal testing of the services.
That one's a little more shady, but it won't infringe upon your intellectual rights. The more significant way that this might affect an author's career is first rights. Traditional publishers often want exclusive access to a story. If it was published for free on a platform like Royal Road or on Amazon, they may not want to publish it. That rigidity is starting to change, as Andy Weir, E.L. James, and Hugh Howey can attest. That said, I don't think it's good to count on having a runaway success. So publishing a story on Royal Road could negatively impact the chances of seeing it on a bookstore shelf. But if literary agents aren't knocking on your door and you plan to self-publish anyways, I don't think you have anything to lose. The last thing I want to touch on is plagiarism. When you share a written work with the world in any capacity, there's a risk that it will be stolen, and Royal Road is no exception. There are some cases where pirates took work from Royal Road and started selling them on Amazon. Obviously, that's a problem if you're the author. With that in mind, how can you protect yourself? I think registering the copyright is an important first step. It's easy, inexpensive, and will really help you in a legal situation. Technically, when you create a work, you immediately own the copyright. The issue is in proving that. That's why you want to register. You'll also want to periodically monitor to see if anyone is copying your work. There are some online registries you can use, but anecdotally, several authors mentioned that applying digital right management actually increased piracy, as if in spite. On a Reddit post, a user named Macintosh Eddie has a great suggestion. Get in the habit of posting all your platforms and names on all of your platforms. Make sure your readers know that you will always post this. And if they see a different name posting/selling, they should report it at this handy link right here. That's wonderful advice. Delegate to the fans of your work and get more eyes on the task. And there you have it, nearly everything you could possibly want to know about Royal Road. It's an extremely powerful platform for authors, and I look forward to exploring it soon.